Russia is likely to default on sovereign debt, the first in decades, as some bondholders said they had not received overdue interest on Monday following the expiry of a key payment deadline a day earlier. Russia has struggled to keep up payments on $40 billion of outstanding bonds since its invasion of Ukraine in February this year. Sweeping sanctions have effectively cut the country off from the global finance system and rendered its assets untouchable to many investors. Here now are the details of this and other stories making headlines across the globe.
Russia's effort to avoid what will be its first major default on international bonds since the Bolshevik Revolution more than a century ago hit an insurmountable roadblock in late May when the U.S. Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control effectively blocked it from making payments. The payments in question are $100 million in interest on two bonds, one denominated in US dollar and another in euros, that Russia was due to pay a month ago. The payments had a grace period of 30 days, which expired on Sunday. President Vladimir Putin signed a decree last Wednesday to launch temporary procedures and give the government 10 days to choose banks to handle payments under a new scheme, suggesting Russia will consider its debt obligation fulfilled when it pays bondholders in rubles. Meanwhile, Japan's government has urged people in Tokyo and its surrounding areas to use less electricity on Monday, as it warned that supplies will be strained as the country faces a heat wave. The Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry expects demand for power to be severe. For weeks, officials have warned of a power crunch as temperatures rises. Over the weekend, the temperature in central Tokyo rose above 35 degrees Celsius, while the city of Isesaki saw a record of 40.2 degrees Celsius. That was the highest temperature ever recorded in June for Japan. Finally, G7 leaders have detailed plans to mobilize $600 billion in funding for the developing world in a move seen as a counter to China's Belt and Road Plan. China's multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure initiative is criticized for hitting nations with too much debt. The Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investments relaunches a scheme unveiled at last year's G7 talks in England. The plan calls on G7 leaders to raise $600 billion over 5 years to fund the launch of infrastructure projects in middle and low-income countries. The initiative will be geared towards tackling climate change, improving global health, achieving gender equity, and building digital infrastructure. Terry Njenga, Lunchtime News.